Hi everyone, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present in this conference. My topic today is mental health and well-being at work. I'm going to look at a few issues related to mental health, what happened during the pandemic, how things changed for employees in the workplaces, and what is this, the great resignation movement, what is the term employee burnout, which we had rarely heard of in Australian context, has suddenly become a very popular term in workplaces. And what are the measures being put in by government to help? What are some of the lessons which we have learned, and what needs to change at the organization level moving forward? Mental health issues in Australia are significant at the moment. 1 in 5 Australians experience chronic or episodic mental health illness each year. And during the pandemic, the intensity of these issues have gone up. 3,000 people lose their lives every year to suicide. So that has led the government to take a serious note of the issue and have um, promised to invest huge amounts of money to tackle this particular issue. For this particular paper, my research is based on a lived experience as well as observation method and secondary research method. This particular graph is showing you the impact of pandemic on the Australian economy. There was a huge decline in the employment levels. These figures are for 2020. So unemployment rate, it went up to 7.1%. 17 of 19 industries recorded falls in employee jobs. So the whole pandemic was a huge disaster for the Australian economy, and lots of people got affected because of that. Young people and women were the most affected because of the pandemic. Measures taken at levels of the government within Australia. So we have 3 levels in Australian system. We have the federal government, the state government, as well as the local government. Each of these bodies, they looked after various aspects. Federal government was involved in procurement of the vaccination and supply of that vaccination across each state, international border lockdowns, monitoring of incoming, outgoing people from across the world, having these repatriation flights, quarantine rules, and they also created this national system which became the advisory body for the rest of the states to follow. So each state, the premier took on the challenge of managing the public health with the support of their health officers, and came up with their rules of how the systems have to be implemented within the state and support to be provided to the community. Local government supported the state government in implementation through various community education programs, using community leaders and other methods of communication. Australian government also came up with some measures to sustain the employment levels within the economy, which was essential for mental health of people. A JobKeeper was for employers to retain workers. Job Seeker was for employees who lost the job and are looking for work. Boost was given to the mental health through Medicare for affected people, and also the government offices, they acted as trendsetters by allowing their staff to work from home and putting those guidelines to ensure that the public transport system is used minimally by people so that there is less chances of transmission. There were some other initiatives taken by the government which were useful from mental health perspective. One of those initiatives was Job Trainer, where the employees who lost the job, people who lost the job, they were offered free education programs. So they could be short programs which are offered to people who want to upskill, change their career, look at new career options, want to study in a different career path. So all those were provided by the government free of cost to keep people engaged in something positive rather than going into depression, sitting at home and worrying about their lives and health. Financial support was also provided to organizations like Lifeline and Beyond Blue to support people in crisis. Mental health plan through the general health practitioners was also approved by the government so that people who need some counseling services can access those through their GPs. Impact of the pandemic on organizations included people losing jobs, the organizations had to downsize, people had to be given pay cuts, and people had no choice but to retain their jobs by having these pay cuts. People were expected to work longer and harder. Those people who survived in the organizations went through survivor syndrome, not knowing when their job will be gone, and the expectations from them was that there won't be any replacement coming for the people who lost the job, and hence the workload had to be shared amongst those people who were still within the organization. So that meant a huge change in how you do business, as well as who is looking after the business and at what level the business is operating. Leaders got tested during the pandemic for their management style. Some came out as winners and some came out as losers. So the winners displayed the classic attributes for a good leader in terms of empathy, being human, fair, equitable, and no micromanagement, having trust in their employees. Whereas the losers, they came out as employers who acted as bullies, and they became much more aggressive and much more threatening towards their staff because they knew that staff do not have a choice at this moment where pandemic is on and there are fewer jobs available in the market. The employees also felt that there was a sense of isolation, social isolation, working from home, where it was difficult for them to talk, discuss issues. FaceTime was good, but then still people felt that they could not have that connection which they had with their colleagues while they were in the workplaces. And it was also the overall morale was down. So what are signs and symptoms of burnout in an employee? These are some of the signs and symptoms: high stress levels, sleepless nights, not wanting to come to work, losing concentration, wanting to give up, lower productivity. All these are signs and symptoms of a burnout in an employee. Other factors as added source of pressure on employees leading to burnout. So these are some other factors. People have families all over the world, and those families were affected due to the virus, and that feeling of helplessness and not being able to go support their families, whether it is parents or your siblings, and that led to the added pressure. So, how common is employee burnout in Australia? We see that this is in a survey, 42% of the respondents said they are experiencing some level of burnout in Australia, and this statistics was taken in 2020. Australia versus global data. In Australia, the statistics show that the level of burnout was much higher compared to the global data for some age groups, and that probably could be because in Australia we have a high level of casualization of workforce, we have temporary contractual workers, and that leads to high level of insecurity, and quite a lot of these people lost jobs. Who remained in jobs had to do work which was unsustainable. In terms of higher education, we saw that again, lots of layoffs, redundancies, downsizing, job enlargement, work intensification, and all these things led to employee burnout, as well as people not being able to work in the industry just because they had lost the job, or it led to burnout. So, what is the effect of burnout on the employees? We have started seeing a great resignation moment, and Professor Anthony Klotz of Texas A&M University, he predicted that large number of people will be leaving their jobs after COVID, and his prediction is proving to be right, as we see in terms of high quit rate in US, largest recorded in September at 3% in 2021, and then we also see similar quit rates happening in Australia, where people are saying that they want to leave their jobs, and it's just because maybe people are too tired of working under so much pressure for so long. Trends in Australia. Another study also found that 48% of Australian workers are planning on looking for a new job in next 12 months. The pandemic has led to a trigger for change in employer-employee relations. We are seeing that the employers have to now look for different ways of attracting the right talent, just because during the pandemic the employees have been given that chance of working from home, for example, working part-time, and still the work went on, as well as the productivity of these organizations were not affected. So that means that the experiment on different ways of doing work has already been done, and that means the employers now need to create maybe hybrid workforce or virtual workforces, so that they can give the flexibility which the employee might be now wanting as a permanent feature of their work life. In Australia, there are lots of job vacancies available, but we do see that there is a bit of a dilemma which Australia is facing, that even if the level of number of jobs available are high, there is still high level of unemployment. People are not wanting to take on roles just as yet, maybe because of the employee burnout which they have gone through, or if these jobs are advertised as temporary jobs, again, the employees will not be interested in taking those roles because they have experienced that the temporary work can be very insecure, and people would want much more sense of security in the jobs which they take on in future. Uh, so it's a tipping point which has been reached within the economy in terms of what kind of job needs to be offered by the employers, or the employees are willing to take on those jobs to to do what they would like to do. So what has happened during this time? People have uh, become tired of being treated like machine, and they are tired of working like machines with no break. People have realized the temporary nature of their being, their existence. People have also realized that there is more to life and not just work, work, work. People had time to reflect about their life and how they want to live life moving forward. So, all these changes have happened, all these things have happened, which have forced people to look at life in a much broader context, and many probably have started moving towards the self actualization, which we used to talk in Maslow's hierarchy. So, the challenge ahead for the employers, what needs to change? The casual temporary work model, business model needs to change, and more ongoing, permanent, secure work needs to be provided to employees. Um, the freelancing gig economy workers will need to rethink career options, because it's good to have some additional income through these kind of freelancing jobs, but people may need some form of a secure ongoing role also. Psychological safety is needed, um, and the employers need to work on building that along with the physical safety of workers. The psychological contract will need to be redesigned and rewritten. There has to be a balance which is shifting more towards the employees, because the employees probably now know what they want, and they would like to find employers who can give them that ideal balance of work and life. Employee well-being in organizations, we need to take more of a holistic approach. We need to see that it is not just the physical health which the employee needs to look after, or employer needs to look after for the employee. It is also the mental health, the financial health, the spiritual health. We need to provide people an opportunity for social well-being, to connect with others, and also intellectual growth. So an organization culture which is supportive of all these aspects of employee well-being is required in the future organizations. Adam Grant, an organizational psychologist, he gave this beautiful pictorial representation of what we were taught as a measure of success, whereas how it should be. Um, we always thought that if I have a good job title and a high salary, I'll be happy. But during the pandemic, we have realized that job title and a big salary can just lead to burnout. You need to also have a life, and to have a life, you need to be doing things which you want to do. You need to have free time for yourself. You need to look after your mental health. You need to also enjoy life, because the transient nature of life or temporariness of life has become very evident during the pandemic. The employment relation, there is a shift in the employment relations which we are anticipating now. So the employers who will be able to offer permanent ongoing roles and also provide flexibility to workers to be able to work from remote areas if they wish to, or other countries if they wish to, if they have aging parents in another country of the world and they want to be located remotely into those countries and want to work from there using technology. That online option or remote working option should also be offered, but that requires a lot of education and mindset change on behalf of the HR and the organizations. So, what will be the challenges going forward for HR? HR will have to create an ideal organization where there is a balance between the employer's needs versus the employee needs. The employee needs have shifted dramatically during the pandemic, and that means the employee may want to work from anywhere in the world using IT. And will the employer now be ready to allow that to happen? And will the employer have knowledge of the employment legislation of different countries where the employees are located and the salary is being paid to? So the taxation laws, the employment laws, the employer will also need to design these borderless, boundaryless HR strategies to acquire talent from um, across the globe, and also make these virtual teams, which are geographically spread, as productive teams. So it's going to be a very different world of work, and HR has a huge job in front of them. So that brings me to the end of this particular presentation. I would like to conclude that the Great Resignation movement does seem to be a reality which is faced by Australians, as it may be apparent in UK, in US, and many other countries of the world. People are rethinking the definition of career, rethinking the definition of how they want to live their life, what kind of jobs they would want. Many of them probably have started moving towards self-actualization because they have realized that there's more to life than just work, work, work. And that means that the employers of tomorrow have to look at how they redefine this work and how they redefine the workplaces to provide that opportunities for employees who would like to contribute, but they would like to choose such employers who are able to provide that work environment which is much more balanced. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thanks. Bye for now. These are my contact details. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or you would like to discuss anything with me. Thank you. Bye bye for now.